Hi everyone, and welcome to the Spencer Lodge podcast in partnership with the awesome Najahi events. If you haven't checked them out, then go check out the Najahi Tribe, a new online platform that's been created for content creators that want to bring value to their clients. If you want to teach stuff or you want to learn stuff, that's a great place to go. So go check out Najahi Tribe. It's literally just been launched a few days ago. Okay, today's guest on the show. For me, it's like, let's understand what's going on with coronavirus, one thing, but let's understand how businesses are impacted, but also what advantages there are right now in the marketplace, what you can do, what opportunities exist. And on today's show, I've got a really special guest to go through exactly that. Let's talk all things media. Right, cue the music. So today's guest on the show is the awesome Otton. He's the founder of the Create Media Group. It's a fast-paced digital communications agency. That sounds swanky, doesn't it? Okay, it's based here in Dubai, works with clients such as Emirates Airlines, Expo 2020, so we'll discuss that, and Dubai Tourism. In 2019, they were recognized by Adweek as one of the fastest growing agencies in the world. Wow, that's awesome. He spends his spare time doing crazy, stupid, nutter stuff. Okay, let's just, if anyone doesn't know what the Marathon des Sables is, go check it out, because if anyone does it once, they're mad. To do it twice, they must be insane. But thank you so much. Coming to join us on the show, Otton.
Thank you very much for the invite, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So looking forward to having a chat today and seeing what value we can add.
Excellent stuff. Good. Right. So you're a media guy, so you probably understand social media marketing, digital advertising, all that kind of stuff. Is that your baby?
That is the area that we're in. So we're a 10-year-old digital communications agency. So web development and social media management are two of the key pillars in the business. We built that out into a fully fledged content production team as well. So we're able to produce the content, then fit with the communities that we build through social. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years. So we've built up to a team of about 86 people now, based across Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and also an office in Saudi. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So hopefully any questions around that, we can jam on it. We can get into it. We can discuss how Corona is affecting both us, SMEs in Dubai, and also a few of the lessons that we're learning along the way, and also a few of the things we've picked up just from keeping our ear to the ground across the industry.
You look barely 25 years old. So how on earth did you start a business 10 years ago? What were you, 15? Did you just leave school?
I'm 37, but thank you.
How are you? Wow.
Yeah.
You're wearing it well. Okay, so let's start then. Let's deal with the hot topic of the moment, Corona. Obviously, we've just been told we're on 24-hour lockdown here in Dubai, and Corona really is something that none of us saw coming. I think that most people wouldn't in December have even known where Wuhan was in China, let alone that there was an outbreak there that was going to affect the world in the way that it has. From your perspective, how do you see things and the impact of this virus on the business community?
I think there's a few different ways to look at this. If we look at, let's say, the SME sector across Dubai now, there's different industries, different verticals are affected in very different ways. I've got friends that run businesses that are in the hospitality sector, the F&B sector, that are a lot harder hit than we are. They've literally had to shut their doors. Some of them with hundreds and hundreds of staff that they've had to ask to go on unpaid leave, and they're in a very difficult and different situation. In that space, it is very difficult to know what to do, because revenue's gone from whatever it might have been to zero, and you've got to then navigate many different areas of running the business with zero revenue coming in. In our position in our industry, comms is still vitally important, and in some areas, in some industries that we work in terms of our client base, we're now more valuable than ever. And other clients, not so much, and therefore they'll be putting accounts on pause, and we'll be feeling effects in different ways. So from our perspective, we're spread across different verticals. Like I said, we do a lot of government work. And right now, the government has to be informing in many, many ways. We work with, let's say, Dubai Tourism. We work on the business side of Dubai Tourism, called Dubai Business. So we're helping communicate the stimulus packages, for example. What does that mean for SMEs? How do we break that down? Those larger documents, how do we break it down into infographics and real snackable, usable content? So in some areas we're very, very busy. In other areas, obviously, there's been a bit of a dip because the hospitality sector, let's say, isn't so busy. But in terms of rather than talking about us, a wider view on how things are going with regards to COVID, what we're hearing from a lot of some of our clients, and also friends that are in sort of leadership positions in different businesses, they don't know how to communicate right now. They're not sure what to say. They're not sure what to do. Should they go quiet? Some brands have just gone completely dark, and other brands have taken a different tack and are trying to push messaging. And from our side, it's absolutely critical that they get this next bit that I'm about to say, that they get this right. It's the action that they're taking, but it's also the tonality of the action that they're taking. It has to be exactly spot on. So if you come across as, let's say, trying to cash in, or in any way not empathetic to the environment that you're communicating in, if you don't get that right as a brand, it can seriously damage a lot of the work that you'll have done building up that brand equity to now. So it's understanding that even if it's a campaign that you've been working on for months and months, if it was relevant 6 weeks ago, it's not necessarily relevant today. And I'd say to the extent that it's probably not relevant today if you've been working on it for the last few months. So it's about throwing everything out that's not completely on point with the messaging that needs to be communicated right now. So all of your messaging has to be relevant, and it has to be appropriate. And then also breaking down, going through the different areas of the communications right now. Let's take, I'll give you an example. I received an email just a few days ago about, I think it was on Wednesday, about a brunch on Friday here in Dubai. Now, I then got an email about an hour later from the same company with a long email essay apologizing for the previous email, because they'd automated their systems, and they'd obviously, that email had gone out through automation to invite people to a brunch, which clearly wasn't on. So that was a big mistake from a company to do that. Now, look, the company was quite smaller local brand, they can get away with it. If a larger brand does that, an international brand does that by, for example, continuing to run paid media ads through social for a campaign, or driving, let's say KFC, they had to pull all of their ads for their finger licking good campaign for obvious reasons. They can't be telling people to lick their fingers during a time of COVID. So it's about understanding the relevance of your messaging during times of, pandemic, crisis, and understanding and making sure that you're empathetic in terms of your messaging as well.
How do companies need to play this out based around the fact that there are different thoughts and different opinions right now? I mean, I believe that the virus is a serious issue, but I believe that the economy and the impact of the economy will come to a point where the axis will cross, where the impact of the economy getting to where it could go could be more threatening and more dangerous to us than the actual virus. So how do companies deal with that?
Look, I can see your perspective, and look, there's certainly two areas of focus right now, isn't there? There's the economic impact, and there's, let's say, the health impact on us as individuals. I think we're going through different phases of this crisis, and right now, everybody's on lockdown. But let's say, when we say, certainly talking about where we are here in Dubai, but many countries around the world are in different levels and different layers of lockdown. Now, that means people's needs, wants, and desires are very, very different right now than they were 6 weeks ago. So in terms of how a business positions itself, see, there's one train of thought which I don't think is correct in the SME sector. A lot of people, and I wouldn't say we've had it, but I've certainly had stories from friends of mine that are running businesses, that because all this is going on, people are asking for huge reductions in pricing for everything, or can you not offer this for free? Now, the problem being is, going back to our two different conversations, yes, people are scared. It's very important to be empathetic, but at the same time, an organization still needs to make money, because it still needs to provide for the community that it has internally. Let's say we have 80 plus people that we need to look after, and they've got their families, and that's the same for all businesses. When we talk about, let's say, the more macro view that you mentioned there, between, like, let's say, this axis between the healthcare issue and the economic issue, the problem being, which I think is quite unique in this environment now, is that yes, at some point if we keep going down this route of complete lockdown, we will be causing more and more and more damage to the economic conversation. However, I don't see how we can not, because if we pivot away from that and say, right, well, we have to reopen, for example, because we reduce the lockdown measures because the economy is getting so damaged. Yes, but if people get sick and they can't go to work and deaths increase, then we're still not going to be able to deliver on the economic side. So I think it still has to stay as a core focus on the healthcare side and the healthcare pandemic, and the economy we're just going to have to make do until we're in a position where we can deal with this, whether that be through vaccine, whether that be through the antibody tests that they're leading with in UK, or any other method that the authorities come up with. We need to fix this before we can fix that. We just hope that there's not too much damage to the economy before we're able to work out how to fix this healthcare pandemic.
75% of the population live paycheck to paycheck. And lots of people being made redundant and losing their jobs, as you know. And
yes.
If people live paycheck to paycheck, there's only so long they can survive before they get into a position where there is literally nothing left. And so what you typically find is, well, they'll get to the end of March, and then in April they'll manage through and maybe move on to credit cards. But if it goes through into May, then people literally won't have money to put food on the table. Now, I'm sure that landlords are going to have to accept no one's going to be moving out if they can't afford to pay the rent, because where could they move to? And so landlords would have to be forgiving to some degree. But what do those people do?
Look, I mean, it's a very difficult situation. I mean, what we're seeing across different countries and different areas is the government stepping up. And, you and I are both from UK, and we've seen what the government's doing there with regards to stepping in and saying that they'll cover up to 80% of people's salaries. In the US, they're giving out checks. I just saw this morning in Saudi that they're stepping in with a large stimulus package to help. I think 60%. You're right. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything locally here yet, but perhaps that's coming. But those are still, I think, few and far between. Those are economies that can afford to do that as well. I think we've got a bigger issue in other economies, certainly much larger economies. What might India do with 1.3 billion people? And how is that? How does the mechanics of that even work? So it's something. I think it's going to be. It's a major issue for everybody, because even in the countries we just mentioned, they'll only be able to do that. I think they're talking about 2 to 3 months in most cases. If there's any ongoing, let's say, hangover from this and that, it keeps happening, are those governments still going to keep paying that? How long can they keep doing it for? How far can they drive that deficit? So it's a very difficult situation. And to be honest, I don't have the answers.
So when we look at the media side of things, then we talked about having your messaging on point to empathetic and show that you care with the people that are sick. Is there not an argument that says you need to have your messaging on point for the other part of the population as well that are frustrated?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm talking about being empathetic to what's going on, I mean, this is where social media really comes into its own, I think, because never before in history have we been able to understand what our customers want and what they're saying, what their feelings are, what their sentiment is, like we do now. We've got many tools that we can analyze our social audiences. Many large brands have huge followings. That gives them huge test bases to allow them to use those tools to understand sentiment, what's being said in their market, and therefore then how to communicate to them. So I think it starts with listening like you've never listened before, really leveraging the tools that brands have. And if they don't have listening tools, they should get something in place as soon as possible, because if they get that wrong, as we've said earlier, it can be very damaging to the brand. But there's real opportunity for brands to step in and offer real value if they understand what their community wants. It's very difficult to sit in a boardroom or let's say a Zoom meeting room at this point and really work out, okay, how do we add value to our customers if we're not really in tune with exactly what it is that their wants and needs are. So once we've understood that, and there's different markets as well, right? Obviously through targeting, you can speak to different segments of your community in different ways. But as long as all of them have that empathetic feel, there's a way of a brand really coming to the table and really building brand equity at the same time as also being able to drive business, not from a not from a cashing in perspective, but if you're adding real value and you've got a product to sell that can add real value, there's ways of being able to position that without it being crass or sort of intrusive in that way. So I think brands need to understand that, but it is a very fine line. And I think this is where social media, comm strategy, all really come into their own, because if you get it right, it can be excellent for your brand, and you can build through this and you can come out the other side. Hopefully towards the end of the year, then we're going to start to see real growth in the second half of the year. Once we get through this, we have to be optimistic that we're going to get through this in the next few months, because the flip side to that isn't really worth thinking about.
Yeah, agreed. In the days of social media, we now see people talking an awful lot more about personal branding. So not the big brands, but smaller, whether it's SMEs or individuals that run SMEs. I obviously produce a lot of content myself, so I'm working hard at trying to build my personal brand, to establish myself. But
doing a great job.
Thank you very much. And how big an opportunity is this for people right now that are stuck at home to be able to do something like that?
Look, there's never before have we had as much time on our hands as we do now, because there's no commuting anymore. Meetings are generally exactly on time. They don't overrun as much. I'm sure you'll have noticed that as well, that if there's a meeting in the diary at 2, whereas before sometimes if it was an internal meeting in the office, we're trying to grab people and I'll finish and I'll join you. Now everything's very, very punctual. So what we're seeing, and there is a flip side to this, which I'll get onto in a minute, is that well-run organizations are actually being able to get through a huge amount of work in the day. Now there is risk of burnout for the team for this. There's risk of not being able to switch off because your sofa's next to your workstation, and it all just kind of blends into one from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. However, focusing on really understanding or owning your day, that's probably the best way to sort of position it. We have an opportunity now where we can control the time we wake up. We don't have to get ready to go for work, drive to work, all the niceties, the time that's not necessarily wasted, but the time it's taken up doing other things before you're actually becoming functional. Now we can wake up, quick shower, and you can ready to go. You've probably just bought yourself 45 minutes to an hour already. If you do that towards the end of the day, and if you're a little bit more aligned with your calendar during the day as well, you're probably finding 2 to 3 hours in your day that you probably didn't have before. So there is a real opportunity if you've got something to say, and this is also critical for those that are thinking about building a personal brand. What value are you putting out? The points that we mentioned earlier around tonality and making sure that we're on point, we're empathetic, we're listening to our audience, they apply to a large brand like Nike just as much as they do to you or me or anybody else. If we're trying to full tilt hard sell somebody through a video and putting that out right now, that's just not great. It's not great positioning. It's not where you want to be. If you're empathetic and you say, look, here are a few things that I've learned along the way, here are tips to help you. I've also got this that might be able to support you as well. If it's positioned in the right way and you've got something of real value to say, then I think we've got all the time in the world, and all you need is a tripod and a phone and a Zoom call, and away you go.
Yeah, I think you're right. Do you think that being here in this part of, how long have you been in Dubai for?
14 years.
Okay, so similar to me. And you say you're 37?
Yes.
So nearly all of your working career.
Yeah, I came straight from university to here.
You did?
Yeah.
So in the future, do you think you'd ever get kind of like pigeonholed into being an expert in the Middle East and would find it hard to transition into other parts of the world?
In a way, I think that there's two sides to it. If you're asking the question to me as Tom, then
yeah.
Look, I think the skill set around digital media, digital marketing is very transferable to any region. So in terms of understanding how to find an audience, how to position a product in front of them, how to do content creation, as you and I have spoke about earlier, how to create all of those things, I think that is quite transferable to other markets. If you're talking to me individually as a business owner in terms of trying to grow a business, then as you well know, your network is everything. So it's understanding, who's in which positions and where how that all comes together, what value you can add to them, how they help you later on. All of that sort of interconnected ecosystem that you're part of, that I'm part of, that adds real value to the ability to be able to build a company. So for me to go and, I don't know, jump on a plane, go to New York, it'd be very difficult to start up a company there and to actually build something significant. I'd like to think I could do it, but it would take me a lot longer until I'd built up some sort of a network. Whereas here locally, I think that there's such an opportunity in Dubai to build a business, to be an entrepreneur. I think the network is very accessible. We're still in a big city, but it's a small town in terms of how to network, how to engage with the right people. It's an incredible place, and I think that there is real opportunity here, more so than in many other developed countries. I've got, as you well do, I'm sure, I've got a lot of friends that are in business in London, other parts of UK, and different parts of Europe, and the issues that they're facing. There's a mentality shift. It's very the mentality here is if there's an opportunity, take it, build on it. There's real value to be added. I mean, the entire environment we live in is almost a startup ecosystem. The whole of Dubai is. I mean, it's
Dubai is an incubator, yeah.
There we go. It's 2 minutes old, right? I mean, where we live, and new developments, new malls, new everything. Everything is just like it's one large ecosystem of a startup on a macro scale. Now, if you're trying to start a business, where can you possibly be that's more exciting than that?
Fair point. How do you get your clients?
And to be honest, the network and word of mouth. 14 years of being in Dubai. So in the early days, a lot of it was personal network. I was involved in rugby clubs, different sports clubs, and it was through that. And then I'd say about 5 years ago, there started to be a bit of a shift where we had a few other agency partner relationships. We were starting to we were really focused specifically on digital. We stopped doing a few other things, and we became a lot more referable because we were specializing. And the more we did that, the more referable we came. And this is when we were 15 people, 20 people. And we were working with a few other key larger brand agencies, and they would send us work. So when I started to realize, if I have a few of these relationships, that's all the sales done for me. Because if they've got 10 clients each, and every so often this client needs something, that client, all of a sudden our phone's ringing. So we built the business off the back of that. And then I'd say the last few years, I'd say 4 years or so, 5 years or so, it's been mostly word of mouth. So we get emails from just coming in through the website, or someone contacts us. Working for the likes of Expo has really helped. We've been working with them for over 2 years now. So as the social agency for Expo, that's given us a lot of exposure within the government. We do a lot of work with DCT in Abu Dhabi. Again, organizations that have so many different verticals and so many different departments and organizations within them. You do a good job in one, and that becomes very referable. So we started working with them 2 years ago, and we've picked up a lot of work across Department of Culture and Tourism, and then same in Dubai.
You can never underestimate the value of referrals, can you? They're so critical in business. So many people just genuinely smashing out, PPC campaigns or running ads here, there, and everywhere, but not understanding the critical benefit of a referral. And lots of people struggling at the moment. And I had 3 new clients come on board in the last 10 days, and I'm like, how do you know about me? Well, we see your content, we follow what you do. So it's that kind of know, like, and trust. People say good things about you, and so that's so important.
Exactly that.
I'm glad that that's how you do your business, because to me that's how it should be done. Tell me, how was being as involved as you are with Expo 2020? How was because I was asked this question this morning, and I don't really have the right answer. How is it going to affect us positively, it being delayed for a year? And is it all it's cracked up to be? Because there's obviously a lot of talk out there in the marketplace, positive and negative talk about it. So you've got your finger on the pulse there. So tell us more about it.
Well, look, certainly I'll just caveat anything I say with the fact that I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you from experience a few of the things that I am aware of. I don't know any more than you do with regards to the announcements. We've got the same information with regards to the suggested dates now being the 1st of October 2021. So we're looking forward to that. However, when it comes to your second point around, is it all it's cracked up to be? 100% yes. We've been working, I've got a dedicated team of 6 people that work on that account, and have done for the last 18 months on social, and then we were doing some work previously. And what's being created there is going to be incredible. We've got some of the world's best minds coming together to create. experiences like you've never seen. I mean, it's a shame that the timing has come the way that it is, because we were just starting to get into a space where we were telling people what they're actually going to see. So there's been, what you'll have seen if you look at just the last even 3 to 6 weeks of content prior to all of this happening, you'll start to see the content. There's a real shift in, this is what you're going to see. This is what we were starting to take snippets of content that we have, that we were just starting to tease towards, right now, we're going forwards with tickets and et cetera, et cetera. So we were just getting into that phase. So it's a real shame. I think if this had been 2 months down the line, you'd have seen a lot more. Because what is being created there, I mean, the experiences inside the sustainability pavilion, the opportunity pavilion, what's being created inside there is, I mean, to put it into context, I'm telling my family that they have, well, obviously it's changing now, that we need to do a family holiday. They need to bring the kids. Everybody's coming to Dubai, rather than me go and visit there, or we go fly off somewhere. But they all have to come here because they need to see everything that's going on at Expo, and it's going to take them a week to get around it. That fully invested in it. And that's not just from a corporate conversation perspective. I can assure you it's from a personal perspective as well. What they're doing there is going to be incredible. In terms of how what impact is this decision going to make in terms of pushing it? They didn't have an option at this point. I mean, you take the Olympics has been pushed, Wimbledon's been pushed. There are many events. So it's the right decision. How it will impact everything it remains to be seen. But we're going to have more time to build towards something that's going to be that incredible. When the timelines, yes, everyone was working flat out 100 miles an hour to make sure that everything was ready and was going to be shiny for the opening. Now we've got more time to focus on it, so we can relook at a few things. There's a few projects that we were just starting now from a content perspective, that now we can actually take a step back and say, right, well, we had a few hundred videos for a certain area that we were working on, and now we can relook at that and say, right, well, is this the best approach? Is this the best team? Can we bring additional people on that to really make it a stronger output? And I know every single supplier will be able to do that now. So we've all got that much more time to really analyze, where we're up to. So from that perspective, it's going to create an even better event.
Excellent. Sounds really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. Right. Honestly, it's mind blowing what's going on in there.
Do you only deal with big organizations now, or do you deal with SME businesses too?
Some SMEs, but to be honest, in the last, I'd say the last 24 months, we have pivoted into more government entities. We're working over in Saudi with 3 government entities now, same Abu Dhabi and Dubai. We do bring on some SMEs, but mostly we're working government level and larger organizations. We just feel that the way that we're structured, we have more value to add to those entities when we can afford to bring all of those together. We've got some very, very smart digital strategists. We've got a performance division. We've got a full content team that can produce TVC quality content, where we've shot global campaigns for Emirates. Now, because of that, because of the investment we've put into those, the people that we have, let's say the equipment and the people we have in production, because of the investment, obviously that comes with a certain price point, as you will well know from your selling strategies and conversations. We have to hit a certain point for it to all make sense. Now, over the years, when we were much smaller and we hadn't invested in all of those people, our price point was that much lower. Now, because of all of those investments, for it to even just make sense financially for us, we have to be at a certain point. Now, one of the things that we do, because I fully believe in the startup ecosystem here in Dubai, I've come from it. This business started on a desk no bigger than the one that I'm sat at now, and we've moved into offices with studios, and we've been able to build something that we're proud of. But I know how difficult it is getting things off the ground in the beginning. So we work with a few brands at no charge that have just come in just within our kind of community of people. There's one that's an incredible eco products, cleaning products for the house, and everything's made with olive oil and lemongrass, and it's an incredible product. And she does an amazing job, and it's a mum that's just doing it from her kitchen. So we've had her in, and I've brought in my head of social media, head of strategy, and we'll do a full session with her. And we're like, right, this is what you need to do. This is how you're going to do it. Go and do this. Go buy that system. Go and do this. And we're not selling her anything. We're just giving her advice and then saying, look, off you go, come back in 2 to 3 weeks once these things have been done. We'll see how we can help you set up your ads or whatever it might be. So we're doing a few of those sort of things just because it also makes us feel good. And I think it's important for brands to give back as soon as they're able to. And you know how it is with small businesses. You go through that quite dragged out phase of, I just need to survive. And then once you get through that survival phase that might be 1 to 2 to 3 years of a business, of just getting to the point where you don't feel like you're going to go under every month or every quarter. Yeah. Then you get to a point where you're like, I've actually got a bit of stability here. You've hired a few people that are able to do things better than you can. You start to get that stability, and then you can start focusing on growth. And then when you get through to growth, you get through a bit of a stage of that, and you're like, oh, actually, I've got a bit of revenue now. So strategically, where should I go? Then you've got to think strategy, and then you kind of navigate. And when you get to that certain point, I think it's really important to look back and say, well, I've been through all of that, and some of that was really tough times. You're talking, I shared a room with my best mate in a villa share because we could only afford one amount of rent between the two of us, and that was all going on a credit card anyway. So I've eaten shawarmas every day for dinner for 6 weeks because we could only afford 10 dirhams. I've been through all of that, and I think it's important when you get to a point where you're able to give back in one way or another to try and find ways of doing that. We can't do everything, but in certain areas we can.
Really interesting times. I'm sure you've got lots of fond memories from those struggles as well.
Yeah. I've been back to that eat and drink a few times and sat there and thought, wow, a few years ago I was sat here with nothing. So it's nice to be able to just give back to the community and just add value where we can, and that's what you do. It's what you do in all of your content. I mean, you've been hammering that content. I know how much work goes into creating the content that you put out. It's not an easy job. It doesn't just happen. It takes time. It takes investment. It takes a lot of energy. And it's, you get to the point where you're like, right, well, now I can use my platform to help people, whether it's my company doing services for low cost, whether it's you inviting somebody on to help grow visibility of their business, whether it's Chris Fade, for example. I loved what he's doing with small businesses now, just offering his social media channels, which highly engaged with, very, very relevant to the local market. And he's offering pretty much any small brand that can just message him and give him a video, and he'll post it on his channels, on his stories, just to try and give visibility to small retailers. So that there's ways that all of us, when we can, must give back.
Talk to me about that's essentially you've been doing some mentoring for other people yourself. Tell me about mentors that you've had in your time.
Certainly. So I think there's different types of mentors in different areas and at different sort of time frames as well. I can think back to different people at different times in my life that I've certainly looked up to. There's two sides to it. One, I think, is almost having like a virtual board of directors. I think is really important as well. And that's something that I focused on in the early days. I've got a couple of friends that are both here and remote that I'll jump on. I've actually got in 2 hours. I've got a Zoom call with a friend of mine who used to be my flatmate and is now the CFO for a €1 billion company in Germany. And he's somebody from a financial perspective who's so far up in the stratosphere of understanding finances, and I'm so far down here somewhere of just trying to piece it together on my Excel spreadsheet. Fortunately, I've got somebody smarter than me to do that for me now. But it's being able to kind of find those people that I feel that I can add value to in one way or another, and certainly receive the value that I need to. So it's creating almost that virtual board of directors where you say, right, well, these 5 people or these 4 people, I fully trust them. They're very good at what they do, far better than I am. And I'd like to create a room with them because I feel I can add value to them in some area or another. And together we'll bounce ideas around. So there's been, I've really focused on that over the years. I've had mentors, as I said, in different areas. And I think it's very, very important to find those people, either one or the other, as early on as possible, because many of them have been through it. And you should only take advice from someone that's either done what you're trying to do or has a very unique perspective that provides value to let's say the decision that you're trying to make, to give you a different perspective. So I think that side of it's very important, because we're all going to make mistakes on this journey. We're all trying to navigate in one way or another. So if you can find somebody that's either made the mistake or knows why that will be a mistake for whatever information they have that's different to yours. It's critical not to think that you know it all, not to think that you can work it all out. You don't need to, especially in this day. I mean, 20 years, if we were locked in this room, in our rooms now, because of the situation that we're dealing with, we'd be sat here with our own thoughts, maybe a few books, trying to work out how to run the business from a telephone. Now, you and I can jump on a call. We can have a chat about anything. I might be stuck on let's say a sales funnel problem, and you're the guy to speak to and say, look, how should I navigate this? I'm not sure what to do. You might need some advice with regards to some digital marketing and might give me a call, and we can jam like this. And it happens right at the end of our fingertips. Just pick up our phone and away we go. So we have to use the tools that are available to us. And as long as you're coming from a good place and you're empathetic and you can really add value to the world, there's no problem with asking for it back when you need it. And that's some of the issue that some of us face, especially if we're entrepreneurs. We're used to being in a leadership position, actually putting your hand up and asking and saying, you know what, I've actually got a bit of a problem here. I'm phoning someone and like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I've got these 3 options in front of me. They all look bad. Like, help. And I urge people, especially entrepreneurs in a time like this, that many of us and many of us in this position, it can get quite lonely in terms of trying to understand that, yes, there's a lot of pressure right now. It's very easy to be an entrepreneur when everything's roses and the sales are coming in, as you well know. It's easy. All you've got to do is you've got revenue coming in and you're just positioning it in different ways. And if you make a mistake, it's okay, because there's more coming in and you can plaster over it. And hopefully those mistakes don't bring the house down. But most of it is a fairly easy process. Be nice to people, be empathetic, create a nice environment to work in. When things like this happen and all of a sudden your revenue drops by 50% in a month and nobody saw that coming, now you're really tested. Now your leadership is tested. Now your resolve is tested. Now your levels of stress tolerance are tested. Your stomach is tested. Now, is this the right strategy? Are you making the right decisions? Are you able to make the difficult decisions that might be very, very hard to make, but you know that for the greater good? You have to be able to do these things. And it becomes very, very lonely when you're in that space. So it's important for entrepreneurs that might not have a support system around them to find one quickly.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I think a lot of time they don't. A lot of people right now will be sitting on their own in some aspect of despair. Some people have had to make people redundant recently because the number one objective is to try and keep that business going. And so making, and tough sometimes. Some people don't like conflict either. So, something will be in their mind going over and over again. And they know they probably need to get rid of X percentage of the team, but because they're loyal and they've been with them for some time, it's kind of a tough decision. But you have to literally be business-like at times like this. And there's no better way than to have a group of people around you that can remind you of that. Okay. Yeah. Because if you're not, it is a dark and lonely and empty place. I couldn't agree with you more. Talk to me about you, the person, not the professional. You're a bit of a, I mean, as I said in the intro earlier on, a bit of a nutter when it comes to the whole the Marathon des Sables and stuff. Just describe what it is for our audience, and then tell me why you chose to do it twice of all things.
So the Marathon des Sables is a 250-kilometer foot race across the Sahara Desert. It takes place over 5 days, so you run equivalent to about 6 marathons over 5 days, and you carry everything that you need for 7 days on your back. So you're carrying a backpack as small as possible, as light as possible, and they don't give you anything apart from water for those 7 days in total. So it's pretty intense, as you can imagine. You're sleeping rough on the floor. They basically put almost like one of those like a carpet of sorts, like a Hessian sack almost on the floor, and a shade that's propped up over you. It's not a tent because it's all open, and you sleep under that each night, and you run across the Sahara Desert. And it is one of the most incredible experiences that anybody can ever have. It's the most humbling experience. It brings together 1,000 people. When I did that in 2015, the first one, it brings together 1,000 people, and you don't talk about work. You don't talk about what you do. It doesn't matter what your background is, what any of it. It's just everybody is at exactly the same position. You're just a runner. You're sat on your ass in the sand, and you've got to get across 250 kilometers. And that's all you talk about. It's the only thing that happens. It's the only thing that matters. And it changed. I know it sounds it sounds a bit sort of maybe a bit dramatic to say it changed my life, but it really, really did in terms of the way of thinking. I've never had such clarity of thought as nothing else matters apart from continuing to move forward. It's the only thing. You've got to get to that finish line for the day. And the only things that matter are the things that will stop you from doing that. So you don't think about anything else outside of the Sahara. It's you've got your backpack, sweating like hell, the Sahara sun, you're in the sand, and you just got to keep moving. And you just keep focusing on moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. And it's small steps repeated over and over again with one singular focus. Now, if you'd said to me a few years earlier that, no, at some point, I wasn't a runner. I played rugby for many years, but I was never a runner. That you're going to run across the Sahara Desert and it's going to be 250 kilometers, you can do these things. I was absolutely no way. I can't even fathom that. I try and run 3K and I'm out of breath. But it was that understanding of how, just that mindset of focus, of understanding what the goal is, and having an overarching goal that's so powerful that it scares you, and it scares you into action. We've just spoken off camera with regards to yourself doing the South Pole, and you've got something in your head. You know you're going to do it, and you know that you're not the person now that you need to be in order to achieve that goal, and that scares you because you think, well, if I had to do it today, I'd be in all sorts of trouble. I might die out there. Everything's going through your head. So you just think, shit, I'm gonna wake up in the morning and I've got to do this. I am getting up at 5, and at 5:30, I'm gonna do this session, and I'm gonna keep doing it because I'm actually scared that if I don't do it, things are not gonna work out too well for me when I get to where I'm gonna go. So it really taught me the power of goal setting, not fluffy goal setting, really big goals, really powerful goals. And then I realized that a large goal is just a framework for decision making. It's a yes, no framework. So if you've got that goal, everything that comes into your path, yes, does it get me closer? No, it doesn't. Okay, I'm not going to do it then. So that comes down to, let's take in this case, going out with friends as much, spending as much time socializing, all the other things that I'd like to do, but does it get me closer to that goal? No, okay, well, I'm not going to do it then. And then it's being able to stay in that space. And if you can really focus all of your actions, or at least 80, 90% of them, within that framework of decision making to get yourself closer to that goal, man, there's nothing that you can't do. And that's what changed it. It changed my business when I got back, because I started setting big goals in business and saying, like, there's nothing that I can't do. So if I want to create an agency that spans across the whole region and has 500 people in it, I know I can do it if I set the goal and I work out backwards from that goal to today. What do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do on Wednesday? What do I need to do the next day? And just keep going, keep going, keep going. I've seen the power of those small steps with one singular focus, where it can take you. Now, we're quite a few years on from 2015 when I did that first race. And it's not a coincidence at all that in 2015, it was a small business, didn't have that much focus. It was kind of, we had 9 people in the business. We were doing a bit of this, a bit of that, mostly digital, but a little bit, we weren't really focused. And now there's a team of 86 people. I've got incredible business partners on board. We've opened offices in Abu Dhabi and Saudi, and we're growing the company rapidly. And that's all comes from goal setting, a core focus, and now bringing people on that journey to understand the same vision as to where we want to go, and making that a shared vision, not just my vision. It's our vision and it's our goal, and then together we work towards it. So it's powerful, mate. It's
almost like some form of therapy, isn't it? It's almost like that.
Yeah.
And is that partially a reason why you went back and did it again?
Yeah, it is actually. I had such an incredible experience on the first one that, I mean, when in our lives now, and you're probably going to experience it on your trip, where your phone is off for a week, nobody can contact you for a week, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know what's going on, and you don't care. You're in the middle of, but we got, to put it into context, we arrived into an airport on the outskirts of, I don't know where, in Morocco, a town called Ouazouate, something like that. I always mispronounce it. We then got on buses for 10 hours into the Sahara. So we were on a remote airport that we had to charter a plane to get to, and then 10 hours on a bus. And then we get off a bus onto 4x4s, and then half an hour on 4x4s to Camp 1. And then we ran 250 kilometers from that point. So you can imagine, when I say we were on the moon, we were in places that I would bet only a handful of humans had been. We were so far away. So we were that remote and that disconnected from the rest of the world. And it was therapeutic. It was just a complete decompression of everything that we thought was important, just melting away into nothing. I mean, I noticed, I think it was like the 5th day or 6th day, and we got 8 people. So that little Hessian sack tent thing I told you about, there's 8 people like lying like sardines in each one of these tents. And these are random people, apart from myself and my mate Marcus. So you meet these people on day one, you become very close. Obviously, you're literally lying next to the guy, he's there and he's there. And you become very close to these people. And I think it was 5-6 days in. I think you're spending 24 hours a day with these people. I think it was like 6 days in before anybody even said, like, so what do you do? Like, what do you do back in the real world? Like, nobody cared what people's jobs were. And then we found out one guy's a fireman, the other guy's a carpenter, one guy's, just all different roles. It was incredible. So that was the bug for me from a personal perspective. It was the bug for endurance running. So I've done a lot of marathons since then. The most, so the toughest one I've ever done was November before last. So just over a year ago. It was actually down in Oman. It was called the UTMB by Oman. It was 140 kilometers non-stop. So where the 250K was split over 5 days, this was 140K non-stop. And it was through the mountains of Oman, the Hajar Mountains. And the elevation that we covered over those 140 hours was just over 8,000 meters. So it was almost the height of Everest when you add up all of the elevation. So you can imagine the damage that did to the body and mind. So that was, in terms of therapy, I think it took me, I was awake for 56 hours and I was racing for 42 hours non-stop. So that was,
I tell you what you're describing, it really resonates with me. And whilst I haven't done crazy adventure races like that, when I climb, so whether it's something simple like Kili or out in Chimborazo and Cotopaxi in Ecuador or wherever it is that I've climbed, I'm at one with the environment that I'm in. Nothing else matters. Nothing is relevant. Okay, the people that I'm with have relevance, and the adventure takes all of my thoughts. And there isn't a feeling better than that in the world that I've ever experienced. And so, whilst I can't comprehend running 2 marathons a day for 6 or 7 days, because I think that's nuts.
It's the same thing. What you're saying is 100% right.
And it does make you think. It certainly made me think. Number one, how important certain things might be or might not be in life. But also the fact that you actually can, there are ways to be able to take your mind and control how you think, what you think, and how you can deliver upon some form of objective. I'm very goal focused myself. Once I have a goal and I'm committed to that goal, I do exactly the same as you. So it's very similar. I break it down, work backwards, and now I work out what I've got to do today. And that's all that matters is what do I need to do today? So it's really interesting, even though it's much more extreme, learning about you doing this kind of stuff and the impact it then has on your business. Again, because I bang on about it every day, just the simple stuff like get up, go for a walk, get up, go for a run, get up, go and do something, get yourself into some form of exercise that can push you. And because I think it's so important to feed your mind those types of endorphins too, because they create much more of a can do, will do mindset than a lot of people you find, which is what if only, or maybe we shouldn't, it's risky type of theory.
Look, I think it's no coincidence the percentage of MDs, CEOs, those in leadership positions that are into endurance cycling, Ironman triathlon, endurance running. You do find a lot of those characters in those spaces because they're goal focused and they understand the benefits of being goal focused in the personal lives, whether it's through relationships, whether it's from a health and fitness perspective, but then also in the business space. I mean, the mindset of an athlete and the mindset of an entrepreneur are very, very similar. You've got to have discipline. You've got to have goals. You've got to be self-reliant at times. You've got to be self-accountable. You've got to have complete ownership of the outcome. It's not about playing a victim's mentality. It's about owning the outcome. Whatever the situation might have happened, it's happened. Now it's your job to move on and build from there. So there are many similarities between the two. And I think that's why you see so many high performing business leaders are also doing a lot in the health and fitness space. It's one and the other. it just becomes life. It's just how you approach life, whether we're having a conversation from a business perspective or I'm on the phone with my running coach. It's all the same stuff. It's the same goal setting. It's the same process. How do we achieve this goal? We need to do A, B, C, and D. It's all the same thing. The content that you put out is excellent in the way that you are telling that story consistently and trying to get people to listen and to understand. I mean, so one of the things that I've done in the past is given books to my senior team at the agency, and one of those is Jocko Willink's. God, the name slips on mine now. It's over here somewhere. Extreme Ownership. There we go. Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Do you know that book?
Yeah.
So that was his first one. The second one was Dichotomy of Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those books talk about owning the outcomes. I mean, it's from a military perspective, but he's taken that military perspective. He was a Navy SEALs commander in Iraq. And he's taken that into the business space and does a lot of consulting and uses those lessons from war and from military leadership into the boardroom. And this is how you can engage in this way. This is how to make those difficult decisions. Because they're making far more difficult decisions than we are, because the decisions they make, you said, okay, maybe having to let somebody go, or some of the things that business leaders are facing now. I think a book like that is even more powerful because they're making decisions people might die. We're not making those decisions. They're very difficult decisions in the context of our lives, but they're not to the extent of somebody might die if we make these decisions. So there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from people that are making decisions in a much more a volatile environment, let's say. But it's all the same thing. It's all the same philosophy. It's understanding and being empathetic to the person you're engaging with, understanding their perspective. So it's interesting.
Tell me, lastly, before we finish, what do you think of podcasts?
I think they're excellent. We've got a podcast. You've got a podcast. We do the creator sessions, which we'll have to return the favor and get you on ours. So when we're back in the office, we shoot once a week in the office with entrepreneurs and creators. And we've seen great visibility from it. We've had clients phone up because they've come across the podcast. We do same as you. We video it as well. We chop that up into 1 minute bite-sized clips. If somebody says something that's really interesting, then we'll cut that, let's say 1 minute 50 out, and we'll put subtitles to it. So we create that content in the same way that you tell your clients to. And it's been probably the best thing that we've ever done from a marketing perspective, is tying in the podcast with a video. And actually, just on that, because it brings it back, loops it all the way back round to relevance of COVID and the situation that we're in. 2 of the proposals that we've just delivered to, one is an existing client and one is now a new client because of having this conversation. They follow us as in Create Media on our social channels, and they see what we're doing for our team from an internal communications perspective. We're really focusing on the mental health element. We're doing Zoom lunches where we send everybody credit on Deliveroo. We're doing a whole bunch of things to create a framework during the week that really focuses on bringing everybody together and allowing us to kind of really batten down the hatches and fight this, get through this situation together. So one ex-client has been watching this, phoned us, and within the last week, they've asked us to put this is a 650 person company across 3 continents. For context, we've just built out a full internal comms strategy for them with a whole list of deliverables that we're now going to be delivering on. It's helping them to create content in different communities. We're going to bring it together, edit that, tell stories, live stream the CEO, all these things, bring it all together. We've built out this full action plan for internal communications during the time of COVID, off the back of them watching us doing our podcast and the other things that we do from internal comms perspective. So internal communications is absolutely critical during times of crisis. And focusing on creating podcasts, focusing on live stream videos with the CEO, so the teams can actually engage and ask questions directly and have that direct channel is super important. And we're really seeing that grow in one government entity and this other semi-government entity that we're now working with. So there's a pivot.
Magic. Fantastic stuff. Tom, I really, really appreciate you taking time to come and talk to us. I know we went on a little bit, but I found it fascinating. But thank you so much for taking your time. How do people get hold of you guys?
So talk to us at createmedia-group.com is the email on the website. You can hit us up through the website. We're very active on social media. So at Create Media Group on pretty much every channel. Myself is at at Tom Otton, Otton. I'm very active on Instagram. I'm more and more active on LinkedIn these days now as well. So hit me up on either of those channels. It'd be great to hear from your listeners, and if there's anything that I can help with, even if it's just a bit of a chat and a bit of advice in terms of the direction that they're going in, then I'm more than happy to do that.
And failing that, they can bump into you in a fight, I guess.
There we go.
Thank you so much for your time, Matt. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers, buddy. Have a great day.
Well, there we go. What a fantastic interview with the awesome Tom Otton, for him to share his knowledge, his experience, and just keep us in the loop, really, as to what you need to be doing right now and what you need to consider from a media perspective, but also taking into consideration his journey. Wasn't it fascinating to see how these kind of adventure trips, I mean, to be honest about it, the Marathon des Sables is about as extreme as you can get, but taking a certain type of sport, a certain type of commitment and dedication and focus on something can then have such a massive impact positively on the business. Now, I know I've spoken about this a lot, and maybe you should take the words from me, but if not, take the words from Tom, because for me, it made a difference within businesses that I've run and developed. Tom is a great example of it doing that as well. So look out for that. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to know more, then please let us know. Do me a favor, leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes if you can. If not, go to Spotify, leave me some recommendations, some comments. I don't mind. But do me a favor, make sure you tell other people about the podcast, because the more people that hear it, the more people can get benefit from it. And that is the aim of what we're trying to achieve here. I'll see you all very soon.